Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to tell you a story that's going to be, I think, rather exciting because there's no one else in the world doing what we're doing. And the story is going to be so interesting that most people sit there and say it can't be true. It is, and I'll go through the presentation. I only got 15 minutes. My mother says I was vaccinated with a gramophone needle, but I don't think I'll even be able to do justice to the presentation today. Here's the forward-looking statements. I guess I can look now. We got two world-class properties when it comes to tellurium. So for any junior company to have one world-class property is something interesting. We've got two when it comes to tellurium, a rare metal. And again, I don't have enough time to say, take my word for it. I always say to people, don't believe a word I say. I'll give you the proof behind it so that you can let those concerns go to rest. This is from the First Solar. They use cadmium tellurium in their solar panels. This is from their presentation in 2012, talking about 4 potential suppliers of tellurium down the road. And as you can see, our Deerhorn property there is listed. Just to let you know, at that conference in Cologne, they said publicly they didn't trust China, they didn't trust Mexico. So that leaves ourselves and Sweden. And then about a year and a half later, Sweden sold all of their tellurium. I don't know to whom. I'm assuming it was to First Solar. But again, I don't know. And this is them talking about our Deerhorn property. And there's another slide in the same presentation, again, talking about the potential suppliers of tellurium down the road. So again, it's not me saying how good our property in Canada is, them saying it. Our other property is a phenomenal world-class property, grade-wise, in Colorado. And this is the report from the Colorado state government. Again, it's not me saying it, it's them saying it. And just to let people know that this property was part of a 3-year exploration program by First Solar. They went around the world looking for potential supplies of tellurium. They looked at over 100 properties in North America. This was their #1 property by far. The grades are astronomical compared to our Canada property where we're high grade, but this is something else. And they dropped it. After doing the work before, they drilled it, so everyone says, oh, there must be a reason for it. Simple. At an annual general meeting in 2011, a couple of green investors stood up and said to the board, we think you're a bunch of hypocrites. You claim to be a quote-unquote green company, but you're involved in the dirty world of mining. How do you square that circle? And so they decided they would continue to buy their tellurium off the market, cost them an extra 1 or 2 pennies per solar panel, but they can keep their chest up and chin high. And as an entrepreneur, sometimes you get things thrown in your lap. They sold it to their head of exploration, who formed the company with his family and friends, approached me 6 years ago, said, would you be interested? And I said, of course, told me what the price was. I said, sorry, I don't have that in my coffers. Best of luck to you. They came back to me 3 years ago and said, would you like to do it? Gave me a better price. And I thought you were going to option with someone else. So we found out you're the only game in town. So we did a deal. So we got 2 world-class properties. Again, First Solar talking about our Deerhorn property in Canada and the state of Colorado talking about their property in Colorado. What makes us unique? Here's our, we got a number of critical metals in Canada, and tellurium is one of the 8th or 9th rarest metals in the world, and we'll show you in a minute what it's used for now. But what's interesting compared to a lot of other companies here, if tellurium went to 0, which it won't happen, but if it went to 0, it'd have almost no effect on our bottom line moving forward. We're a high-grade precious metals company, mainly silver, okay, that happens to have tellurium that comes with the gold and the silver. So if the price went to 0, it would have virtually non-effect on us going forward because we have high-grade gold and silver, as I mentioned. And it just so happened in the last year or so, our qualified person, Dr. Lee Grote, professor at University of British Columbia, world famous, he consults the governments of Japan and India. He has gone on record as saying we are sitting on a copper porphyry. So you imagine having that in a junior company with our market cap, which is $8 million Canadian. And the reason for that is I have to explain to people what tellurium is, and when I tell them everything that we have, and you'll find out here in a minute, people shake their head and say, no, there must be something wrong. It's impossible that their market cap is $8 million with what they're sitting on. And I say, look, I've been there before, took my last company from $4 million, sold it for $175 million 11 years later, took paper in the company, owned 21%. They sold for $4.9 billion 2 years later, so our enterprise value is about $1 billion for those who held on. If you do things different than most people, it takes a while to convince people. That's why I'm here at the invitation of John Fennick. I understand he mentioned me earlier today, this company. And what we have to tell you, again, you'll have to go on my website because you're going to say that it's impossible what this guy's saying. Yeah, he must have escaped, but I'm telling you the truth. This is it, and this is why I'm so excited and why John is. So let me tell you about our successful PEA. We did a PEA in 2018, and what was the reason for that? Just to show people we knew what we were sitting on was pretty darn good. So we got an engineering firm that did a PEA in 2018, and they said it was robust economics. And I put that out in the news release, and the commission slapped me on the wrist and said, you can't use the word robust, it's too promotional. I said, it's not my word. That came from the engineering company, so they phoned them up to confirm that that was the word they used. Put in perspective, they said it was a 1.6-year payback, 42% IRR after tax. Great. I think it's important to say that that was based on $1,300 gold and $17 silver. So I'm assuming it's a little bit more robust now than it was then. It was still pretty darn robust as well. So we're sitting on a wonderful property. Now, this is what's changed for us lately, is that we just filed a patent for the United States and Canada at the end of February for our new thermoelectric device, which is going to change the world. It's far superior to anything that's out there. The current thermoelectric devices usually start melting when you hit 150 to 200 degrees centigrade. We have videos on our website where the inventor actually has a heat gun pointing at it, 1,800 degrees centigrade, no problem. So since we put up a rudimentary website at the end of February, it tells me we're getting 600 hits a day from all around the world. People want to know about our thermoelectric. And the reason he approached us, the inventor, 75% of his invention involves tellurium. That's why he Googled, and thank God for Google, because we're called First Tellurium, so there we are. So that's how he found us. And he's so confident about it, he just put in his resignation. His last day is with Toyota this Friday, May the 3rd. He's an engineer with Toyota, and he's been in charge of building robotic EV plants for General Motors for the last couple of years. Each plant is about $225 million, and he's in charge of 3 of them. So he's a bright guy. So he approached us only because we're the only tellurium company around. And if you can see how small that device is there in the picture, it's about 2 inches by 3 inches. And an expert, I'll talk to you later on, that's involved in a lithium-thorium battery, he said that if you used 6N and 7N tellurium, that little device could probably power a half a city block. And then anyways, he called me back the next day. He said, well, just put down 2 or 3 houses. I don't want to go on record saying half a city block. So I said, fine. Okay, so it could be used for EVs, as thermoelectric, helping the efficiency of internal combustion engines, and also helping EVs, as well as we all know the administration is looking to get everyone driving an electric vehicle. That's not going to happen for 2 or 3 decades, in my opinion. So if you can have something that helps the efficiency of an internal combustion engine, we certainly should have a lot of interest from people. It should it should make the alternator obsolete. Also make better solar efficiency for panels. We'll get into the solar down the road, but this stuff could be used at nighttime. It's all based on collecting the difference in temperatures from one side or the other. So while the solar panels are dark at night, this stuff could be helped to use. It might only add 6% to them, but certainly anything that helps make them more efficient is good for us. We talked about a greenhouse energy use. One of the people at our show in Vancouver in February, when we introduced, I said his brother-in-law spends $1 million a year on fuel for his greenhouses for his pepper farm. And he said, what do you think you do? He said, I'm pretty sure we could at least save you 30% a year. So 30% of $1 million is pretty good for one greenhouse. So extending the life of the drone industry, the current best drones are about 15 minutes in capacity. I'm not talking about the missile drones. I'm just talking about regular drones. So we believe we can, with this new invention, it could be get the drones up to an hour or so. And there's no weight problem because the little thing I showed you there, it weighs 70 grams, so less than 2.5 ounces. So there's not going to be any problem with the use for that. And I think I may have skipped a slide or two, so let me go back. What got us on the map of everyone is that the University of British Columbia, about 2 years ago, introduced a new lithium-tellurium battery, which is far superior to a lithium-ion battery. So we went on the Frankfurt Exchange a couple of weeks before that, knowing it was coming out in our stock, which no one knew about. You have to explain tellurium. We were at 18 cents forever and trade 500,000 shares a month, not a day. Anyways, as soon as they made the announcement and was on the local news there, our stock took off the next day. It went from 18 cents to 71 cents, traded 2 to 3 million shares a day for a month. I thought, hey, this is wonderful. I woke up and my stock tanked And I thought, what the heck's going on? It doesn't make any sense. And that was the morning that Russia invaded Ukraine and everyone in Europe sold. So it had nothing to do with us, but it had not been the case. So I think I did skip a slide there. So tellurium is big in solar panels. First Solar, the biggest company in the United States, uses a mixture of cadmium tellurium. The market for the last 10 years or so has been pretty stagnant. It's about 600 to 700 tons a year of tellurium. China supplies 60% of it. And about 2 years ago, the CEO of First Solar had an interview in a magazine, and he said that starting in 2024, their own needs are going to be somewhere between 900 to 1,100 tons a year. Obviously more than what the world provides. They know who we are, obviously, as they mentioned. But as I said, my personal opinion is that I believe we will get bought out just because we have so many opportunities. I said my dilemma is, who's going to buy us out? Will it be a solar company that needs the tellurium for the solar? Will it be an automobile battery company that needs tellurium for this new lithium tellurium battery, which is far superior to a lithium ion? I'll get into that in a second. Or is it going to be a copper company that comes in and says, oh, once you drill up a little bit more of your copper, we'd be interested in doing it. So I should put in perspective why the lithium tellurium battery is a game changer and why our stock took off. There's 5 advantages of a lithium tellurium battery over a lithium ion battery. Number 1, it's much more powerful, 4 to 10 times more powerful. Number 2, much easier to charge. Number 3, lasts twice as long. Number 4, size-wise. So let's say here's your lithium-ion battery for your car, okay? Here's a lithium tellurium battery, which again is more powerful. You're talking thumb to forefinger, and not necessarily most important, but certainly very important, is that it's a solid-state battery, which means it cannot catch fire. Cannot catch fire. So I say to people, imagine if there was no other difference between our battery and a lithium-ion, except they didn't catch fire. I think automobile companies and insurance companies would be interested. But there's many more advantages, and that's why our stock took off that time, because the Europeans understood it. So my biggest hurdle is having to convince people what we have. Because I went through this in my last company, and they'll say, oh, no, it takes one group to say, oh, you really have something here. So could you imagine a junior company with a market cap of 8 million Canadian, whatever it is. By the way, I'm the largest shareholder. I don't sell. My wife won't let me. So we're sitting on 2 world-class properties. Again, not my word. I told you who they were. And now we got a copper porphyry that looks interesting. And then people say, well, how did you get a copper porphyry? Well, we're up a mountain in BC, so we were covered with snow and ice for years. So thanks to Mother Nature, started melting. Our qualified person walked around the property, and this copper was sticking out. And that's how we found it. Not that we're geniuses. I'd like to take credit for it, but I'm not. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. So we're sitting here on an opportunity that we've got 90 million shares out, give or take. And thank goodness for this convention. That's why I came down here. Got to meet some very interesting people in the U.S. government, whether it's the Department of Defense, whether it's the Department of Energy, that did not know anything about the lithium-thorium battery. They're very interesting. And thanks to us, we have a partner here in Washington, D.C., an NGO called Resolve, Inc., that have gone around the world helping people with bringing fresh water and educating young ladies. They have connections here in Washington, and they're sort of working behind the scenes with us. And they helped us. We get involved in a project called Salmon Gold. We're minor participant, but the gold gets sold to 2 U.S. corporations, Tiffany and Company and Apple, and that premium gets put back into the rivers and streams, and they clean up and put the salmon in. We're only a 49% partner. It's a 51% partner with the First Nations, but that's how we got involved with this NGO. They tell me my time is up. It's not the first time I've heard that. As I said, vaccinated with the gramophone needle, and there's really so much more to this company. Like, if you look at it, you say, oh, you may not be interested, but you'll find out about us, because, you know, I work on 2 or 3 really big things, and we don't tell anyone anything. There's no leaks from my thing, so people always assume with the Pavlovian response, sell on news, and I shake my head like, well, there was no rumor for to sell on news, but people are the way they are. So we don't leak anything, because when I sold my last company, as I mentioned, there looked like there was some insider trading from the other side. So the BC Commission, the Alberta Commission, the Ontario Commission, the Quebec Commission, and the Stock Exchange all demanded our emails, our texts, our phone, who knew what when. And luckily, I agreed to the deal at the Saturday at the Masters Golf Tournament. I didn't tell my board till the following Thursday, so all that stuff happened. So we were proven innocent, but we don't like leak anything. But it's a tremendous company. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Cheers.
Thank you so much, Tyrone. Your